Hello guys, it's Webby again. Welcome back to another video. Welcome to a beautiful sunny day here in Australia. And today I'm going to be looking at the 2020 Toyota CHR Koba Hybrid, which is a bit of a mouthful. Basically it's a CHR, the hybrid engine, top of the range. In recent years, Toyota have had a bit of a change of heart. They've always made what I consider to be sort of quite plain cars, a little bit boring, if that makes sense. But yeah, in the last few years they've gone sort of all angular and interesting and kind of sporty looking, which this CHR is definitely a product of that. So I've managed to get hold of this car today. It belongs to a friend of mine, and he said take it for a drive, see what you think, make a video, let me know your thoughts. So I said okay, fair enough, let's do that. So we've come out here on this beautiful sunny day to have a drive of the car. I've been driving it for a couple of hours now, so I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in a minute. But I wanted to show you around the outside, look at some of the, I suppose, interesting bits and pieces about the car, talk a bit about, sort of what it does, what it's about, and maybe even discuss the sort of person that would maybe buy this sort of car. So let's have a look around the car to start with. If we look at the front of it, it's got that kind of new Toyota sort of look to it. It's very sort of sharp and angular, particularly when you look at things like these sort of lines down here and sort of down here where your fog lights are. It's got this sort of big, I know, sort of like a big mouth or something you'd call it. But again, I think it's quite a good looking car. The Toyota badge is blue, which denotes that this one's a hybrid. If we come around a little bit more, you've got LED front headlights, you've also got LED rear lights, and you get obviously the daytime running lights, which are obviously on most cars nowadays. So this is, as I said, this is the Koba model, which is the top of the range model. There's only two you can have. You have a standard CHR and the Koba. And engine wise, you've got a 1.2 turbo petrol, which is on both models, but if you want a hybrid you have to go for the Koba model because that's the only model you can get it on. Base model you can get, both models you can get 2 or 4-wheel drive, but when you get a hybrid it's only 2-wheel drive. Not sure where the sense in that comes in, but obviously Toyota have made it work. So on the Koba, like I say, it's the all singing all dancing, you get everything as standard. The only option in this particular car is the black roof, which I think is really cool. You can have it just as like a plain colour, just all one colour, but I think this whole sort of two-tone thing going on is really, really good. One other thing the owner did tell me about, he put these quite sort of fancy sort of centre lock sort of cover, I suppose you'd call it, which goes over all the wheel bolts and it's got the little Toyota logo in the middle. I think that's quite a nice little sort of neat finishing touch. It just sets it off quite nicely. But yeah, Koba, you've got 18-inch alloy wheels, this sort of two-tone finish going on there. It's quite a nice design actually, quite sort of sporty looking thing. But when you sort of start going towards the back of the car, the shape of the car gets a lot more interesting. The front doors have got regular door handles. The rear door handles are these little sort of bits up here. And it's just a case of pull it outwards to open the door. We'll get a little bit more into sort of getting in and out of the car in a little while, and I'll show you sort of space in the front and the back and that sort of thing. When we come round to the back, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. You've got this really sort of, quite a big spoiler at the back. It kind of extends the look of the roof, so it makes the car look a bit longer than it is. And then you've also got this spoiler built into the tailgate as well. So yeah, it's definitely got a chunky, sporty kind of look to it, and yeah, I quite like the look of design of this. When I first saw one a few years ago, these have been out since early 2017 by the way. When I first saw one I thought, oh, that's a bit of a strange looking car, but you see more and more of them about, and obviously you get accustomed to them, and it gets a bit more familiar. So I will just let the motorbikes go past a bit noisy. Which on a day like today you can't blame them for being out really. So yeah, so now you've seen a few more of these on the road, they've become a bit more, you're used to seeing them, if that makes sense, so they don't stand out and look a bit more, or a bit as odd as they used to. But yeah, around the back you've got this sort of big 10 sort of diffuse a bit down here, but that's alright. So we've got all your parking sensors and bits and pieces in it. You've got your big hybrid badge, your Koba, to obviously let people know you bought the top of the range car. And then get back round to this side of the car. So as you can see, there's lots of sort of angles and different styling cues going on, which, as I mentioned earlier, is far removed from what Toyota used to be. They used to have sort of quite bland square cars, but their sort of new design is very sort of angular and good looking, I suppose. Just in case anybody's asking how Toyota came out with the word Koba for their top of the range car, it's actually named after the guy who designed it, so that's pretty easy. So yeah, that's the outside of the car. That's the outside of the car. Just to sort of run over some of the features that comes as standard on these cars. So you've got all your safety stuff. So you've got your autonomous braking, lane keeping aid, adaptive cruise, blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, even on the base model. The Koba picks up things like the leather interior, which we'll see in a minute, and a few sort of aesthetic things as well. But yeah, generally all the safety stuff is standard, which is becoming more and more common these days. So let's have a look inside. Shit, nearly fell over. Let's have a look inside the car before I fall over. Keyless entry to start with. That means you obviously then get push button to start. Right, so let's jump inside the car and have a look. Immediately, let me just take these off so I can see what I'm doing. We've got these really nice sporty leather seats. Very, very comfortable when you're driving along, I have to say. You've got electric lumbar support. The only strange thing is, and the owner was actually telling me, is in America the front driver's seat is electrically operated, where here in Australia it's manual. I'm not sure why they thought they were going to do that, but either way they have. Little things I quite like, here on the door trim you've got this sort of upper and lower plastic section, but it's all sort of diamond shaped, which sort of gives it a bit of appeal to younger people, I suppose, which is quite cool. Then the other thing you notice when you sort of get in the car, on the sort of the door trims here, they've got diamond shapes as well. And then also on the ceiling as well, you've got diamonds. So there's a bit of a theme of diamonds here. So whether the owner's got the designer had a bit of an obsession with diamonds, I'm not really too sure. But even all the buttons on the steering wheels and on the dashboard, they're all diamond shaped as well. Not something that's immediately obvious, but when you look at it, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So let's bring the Koba CHR into life. So your start button is just here to the right steering column. If you press it once, it tells me the door's open. Yeah, you press it, bring it into life, and nothing happens. There's no engine, it's very quiet. Then you've got this lovely, nice clear display in front of you. So that's where you see your normal bits and pieces, trip computer if you've got your door open. The different thing about this is to the left is a little needle that tells you whether you're charging the battery, using the battery, or using the battery and the engine together to power the car. And it's quite cool seeing the needle sort of swing to and fro as you're driving. So yeah, I quite like that. As in terms of the rest of the car, on your steering wheel you've got all your buttons here, things like volume, using your phone. On the other side you've got some of your safety features. These ones here operate the screen in front of you, and then your trip meter. Your cruise control is a little lever just down here to the side of the steering wheel. That's actually adaptive cruise control, which is pretty cool. If we come over to the sort of main centre console, you've got the same sat-nav system as you'd find in a Corolla. So you've got your nav. This particular part of the screen would depend on what you're looking at, but I've been looking at the power meter, and then that would be where your phone pop up, be it standard phone connectivity, or if you're using Apple CarPlay, which thankfully they now get. Coming down, we've got the controls there for the air conditioning system, and then down here is literally just your gear stick. Just move those wires out of the way. Electric handbrake. You've got an EV mode button there as well, so you can just use the car in electric mode. Automatic parking brake, and you can turn off the traction control. I can't imagine that's really going to do a whole lot, but there we are. So on the screen I just wanted to show you a couple of different features. So this is kind of just your home screen. So you've got your sort of normal features that you can use. So this is the energy monitor, and when I go for a drive home, I'm actually going to show you this, because it shows you the arrows going backwards and forwards between charging and power and that type of stuff. So it's actually quite cool to watch. And once you're actually in the car, like I was saying earlier, the seats are really comfortable. They're very supportive. But the driving position is really nice as well. It's one of those where the pedals are directly in line with, you know, where your sort of sitting position is, and it's really nice for a leather steering wheel. It's just the right size, but again, it's directly in front of you. There's no kind of offsets, so it's a lovely driving position. Loads and loads of headroom, as you'd expect for like a mini SUV type of car, and plenty of sort of elbow space, and you don't feel like you're too cramped next to the passenger. So everyone's got quite a lot of space here in the front, which is really good. I'm going to leave my seat as it is now, and then I'm going to jump in the back, just to show you sort of the amount of legroom and headroom that you get in the back of one of these cars. So, in the back, not too bad actually. It feels a little bit darker in here, if I'm honest. I guess having a darker roof lining contributes to that, but this sort of big pillar at the back here does sort of make you feel a little bit sort of claustrophobic. But in terms of actual, leg space, head space, it's actually really good. And one thing I do like is you can actually get your feet under the front seat, because then it means you can actually stretch your legs out a little bit. Some cars you can't, and then you're kind of like, you've been in a sort of very upright seating position, which after a while would feel quite uncomfortable. The only thing that I wish it did have in here would be some rear air vents for the passengers, and also a centre armrest, because most cars these days tend to come with a centre armrest. So you can't obviously bring your centre armrest down and lean on it. It then doesn't give you any cup holders, which, if you've got some young kids in the back, that might be a bit of an omission. You do have some decent sized cup holders on the doors though, that's quite good. But yeah, it would have been nice to have an armrest, I think. And although the windows are fairly small, you do feel like there's enough light coming in, which isn't too bad to notice either. A view ahead for the rear passengers isn't too bad. You've got a fairly big gap between the two front seats, so kids can see through and annoy mum and dad. But yeah, generally it's not a bad place to be back here. Even if you had a really tall driver in the front, I still think that you'd have enough leg room, and your feet wouldn't be too constricted with a taller driver. So let's have a look in the boot and actually see how much space we've got in here, and so we can figure out how to open it. Oh, that's quite nice. It's actually quite a light boot. Sometimes tailgates are quite heavy because obviously for crash protection, but that is quite nice and easy to open. And you get a little handle there as well when you come to close it. So it's actually quite a decent size, and you'll notice there you've also got the tether points for your child seats, which is obviously important these days. You can obviously fold the seats down. Your rear shelf comes out as well, so you can actually extend the boot quite a way. If we just lift up this little sort of rubber mat that we've got going under here, you do get a space saver spare wheel with the car, and then you've got all your toolkit and everything in there. And then just over to the left side, you've actually got a couple of sort of storage bins as well. So it's nice to see you actually do get a spare wheel. because some makers these days are sort of doing away with spare wheels and just giving you one of these puncture repair kits, which are pretty useless, to be honest. So, looking under the bonnet, this has got the 1.8 litre petrol engine and the electric motor. It puts out a total of 90 kilowatt, just over 140 newton meters of torque, which doesn't necessarily sound a lot in these modern days, but it's more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. Because it's not a particularly heavy car, it's fairly small and light, and the way the gearbox and the engine combination work together, it's actually really good, which I'll explain more once we get driving. But yeah, it's all kind of lots of wires and bits and pieces and lots of things I don't understand going on under there. But what I do know is it's good to drive, it's quiet, it's economical, and it's quite fun too. So let's go for a drive. Right, so we're on the road, and what's really cool is as soon as you start moving along, it will automatically use electric first, which is quite cool because, I don't know, it's just got this weird kind of space age vibe, that you're moving and there's no engine working. And it takes a bit of getting used to, but I actually quite like it. It's just really quiet and calming, and yeah, just obviously, yeah, not something you'd expect if you've never driven a hybrid or an electric car before. But yeah, it's quirky but good. I like it. So I've been driving for a couple of hours now, so I wanted to have a bit of a drive, see what my impressions were first, and then be able to tell you what I thought of it, because obviously it is a little bit different than your average sort of small car, purely because of the whole hybrid thing, but also from a point of view that it's kind of a new Toyota, if you like. It's not the old boring traditional Toyota. So yeah, just to sort of get my thoughts and opinions on it, just to so I can really sort of give you a lot of information about it. So things I've noticed while I've been driving along is how it handles. It's really sort of confidence inspiring for a small car. It doesn't feel like a small car. I know it's kind of a little bit bigger than, say, a Yaris. It's more of a Corolla sized car. But yeah, it just gives you that confidence to just go out and have a bit of fun and just enjoy the actual drive. Again, things you don't normally associate with Toyotas. They've always been, and as I said before, a bit bland, a bit boring, no fun. But the recent models over these last few years have really changed that sort of mindset, I think. Now, if you watch my recent video of the Corolla Hybrid, it's interesting to note that a lot of the insides are very similar. And so the big sat-nav screen is, I think it must be virtually identical, if not very similar. And thankfully now you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which for a lot of people is one of the first things they look for in a new car these days. It would certainly be at the top of my list of things to have in a car. It's nice to have all the safety stuff, obviously, which this car has got. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, even when I'm selling cars, people say, oh, has it got Apple CarPlay, has it got Android Auto? Because people like to be able to use their phones in their cars and listen to music and that sort of stuff, so it is really important. But in terms of safety things, you've got the autonomous braking, you've got blind spot monitor, you've got lane keeping, front and rear sensors, rear camera. You also got surround cameras as well. So when you actually park in the car, it gives you like an overhead view of the car. So if you was going to be in like a tight gap or something, then you can actually see, where the car's positioned, which is quite clever. It doesn't have active parking, as in the parallel parking system that some cars get. But I don't think that's necessarily too important, because it's not a big car. So yeah, I don't think you really miss out on that because you've got the sensors and the cameras anyway. Driving along,
visibility going forward is really good. You do get a little bit of a blind spot with that rear pillar, the C pillar. That does make it a little bit awkward to see out the back. I've heard some people talk about the back window being small, but I think it's okay. Rear visibility is actually quite good. We've got decent sized wing mirrors, and so it's got the blind spot monitor as well. So yeah, you really don't have too much of a problem unless you were, you know, looking over your shoulder and trying to see that sort of rear third of the car. Driving position is really comfortable. The seats are superb. I love the seats. They're nice and soft, as in the material that they've used, but they give you enough support without sort of like tightening your rib cage and, you know, making it uncomfortable. So yeah, I really like the seats. Now, one thing you do notice, or actually you don't notice, is the switch between pure electric and the petrol engine cutting in. It's really smooth, and you know, it doesn't, you know, you don't notice it at all. The transition is pretty seamless. So it's a nice experience to just sort of go along and, you know, almost trying to guess whether you're using electric or petrol. So there is my review of the 2020 Toyota CHR Koba Hybrid. I really liked it. Surprised me in a good way. Love the way it drives. I love the integration of the hybrid system switching between sort of the electric and the petrol engine. Really comfortable, very quiet inside. I love the fact that it's now got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so it's a bit more sort of modern, up to date. So yeah, now I think it will appeal to younger buyers, older buyers. Quite a broad spectrum of people would sort of be interested in it, I think, now having sort of spent a bit of time with it. I think it looks better in these brighter colours with the black roof. It's quite a sort of modern, sort of funky look, which I think is quite cool. So in summary, yeah, I really liked it. It was a good car to drive. Yeah, I like the styling as well. I think it's quite futuristic. It's very non-Toyota as to what they used to be like. So yeah, I think it's a really good little car. So if you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to find out when new videos go live and we do more car reviews on the channel, subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will get back to them as soon as I can. Always try to endeavour to answer people's questions. So yeah, please feel free to leave them below for me. And look out for the next video coming soon. We've got quite a few coming up for the rest of the year. So hopefully there'll be something there that you enjoy and look forward to watching. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.